Mr. President, when and under what conditions might Indonesia return to the United Nations?
Only after reorganization of the United Nations.
What kind of a reorganization of the United Nations do you want to see?
For example, the Secretariat, the Security Council, the United Nations as they are now do not satisfy us.
Face the Nation traveled this week to Jakarta, capital city of Indonesia, for an exclusive interview with President Sukarno, filmed in the Indonesian State Palace. President Sukarno will be questioned by CBS News Far East correspondent Peter Kalischer and by Southeast Asian correspondent for CBS News Bernard Kalb. Here to lead the questioning is CBS News correspondent Paul Niven.
President Sukarno, we have questions about your withdrawal from the United Nations, about the Malaysian problem, about your relations with the Eastern Bloc and with the Western Bloc. And we'll begin in just a moment.
Vegetables. 1,000 pounds of vegetables. Carrots, onions, cabbage, squash. And for only $2, you can send all 1,000 pounds of these vegetables to hungry people overseas. Here's how. Mail your $2 to CARE. It will buy 12 packets of seeds, 12 packets of protein, minerals, vitamins so desperately needed in the diet of undernourished people. And for $11, you can send these 7 agricultural hand tools to plant and grow the seeds. Send CARE seeds and tools to plant a network of friendship gardens around the world. CARE seeds plus CARE tools equals food. Help people to feed themselves. Send your dollars to CARE, New York, 10016, or your local CARE office.
Mr. President, is it fair to say that your relations with China have grown closer during the past year and your relations with the Western powers less close?
That's not true.
Is not the current visit of Dr. Subandrio to Peking and the seeming joint interest in a position of criticism of the United Nations indicate that you're growing closer to China?
Look here, we make friends with every nation in the world, and I know that Subandrio has been to not only to China, but I have been to Cairo, I have been to other countries. Why did not that attract world attention also?
Mr. President, has Indonesia given any thought to the possibility of setting up what might be called a United Nations of the new emerging forces?
It is not in my intention. I want to establish only as soon as possible the CONEFO, Conference of the New Emerging Forces. I have spoken about this already in my speech on 17th of August last, the CONEFO.
Mr. President, if Peking gains its seat in the United Nations, would Indonesia then join or rejoin?
If Peking gets a seat in the United Nations and the United Nations are still like now, we shall never re-enter the United Nations.
Mr. President, there have been news stories all over the Western world, at least, that you and China wish to start a rival organization to the United Nations. Is this made up out of whole cloth? Is this all wrong?
No, I have only spoken about a CONEFO.
You have not spoken about a UNEFO?
No.
There is no intention on Indonesia's part to establish such an organization?
At the present moment, not.
Mr. President, do you think that the wave of the future in this part of the world belongs to the Chinese and the Indonesian people?
It belongs to the progressive forces in the world.
Is it possible?
The world is going the progressive direction.
You mean a socialist direction or a nationalist direction?
Progressive means, it means the, yeah, you may call it a socialist, and you may call it the fulfillment of national aspirations to all peoples in the world. Progressive is a new world without colonialism, without imperialism, without what I call always the exploitation of man by man, without exploitation of nation by nation.
Mr. President, by your definition, is it possible, for example, for a country like the United States to be regarded by you as a progressive force that would fit into this overall definition of yours?
No comment.
Mr. President, people in the West sometimes say that you and leaders of other emerging countries are obsessed with the colonialist problem on the grounds that colonialism, the battle is won, that you've won your battle, you have your independence, the colonial flags are coming down every year, and that you're over the hump. Are you still seriously concerned about colonialism?
Yes.
You will not be satisfied until the last...
I've spent 40 years of my life for the struggle against imperialism and colonialism. And the very first sentence in the Indonesian Constitution condemns imperialism and colonialism.
But, Mr. President...
Everywhere or anywhere in the world, and in all its manifestations. And this world, this present world, is still a world with imperialism, with colonialism. So I continue this fight against imperialism and colonialism.
But does colonialism only have to come from the West? Can it also come from the East?
In the Constitution, in our Constitution, is mentioned colonialism, imperialism in any form.
Sir, when Malaya and North Borneo were British colonies, pure British colonies, there was no friction with Indonesia. Now that they have become Malaysia, suddenly they become a menace.
You are not right, Mr. Kalisher. The peoples of North Kalimantan and the peoples of Malaya, they are fighting for freedom now. And they have asked us for help, assistance. And we are always helping and giving aid, assistance to any nation fighting for freedom. Let me be frank, we have assisted, we have given help to, for example, the Algerian people in their struggle for independence. We are helping people somewhere else. Any people fighting for freedom have our sympathy, and we shall help them.
May I ask a rather impertinent question? How does the landing of guerrilla forces on Malaya help the people of North Kalimantan?
Because it is one. The neo-colonialist project in Malaya, in North Kalimantan, is one project.
Mr. President,
I always said that our struggle against imperialism should be an international struggle because imperialism is an international force.
you have said repeatedly that you will not make war against Malaysia. What is the difference between making war and landing guerrillas? Where would you draw the distinction?
Landing guerrillas?
Yes.
I have never landed guerrillas. Those boys who landed there are volunteers.
Are they Indonesian volunteers?
The Indonesian volunteers.
Who have gone without the sanction of your government?
Yes.
Do you expect
Because I said publicly, I shall help and give assistance to any struggle for freedom. I said publicly, if, for example, the United States are attacked by another country, by another nation, I shall give assistance to the American people to repel the, to repel the...
Do you think your volunteers might eventually be going into Malaysia in the same numbers that the Chinese volunteers went into Korea?
I don't know.
Well, Mr. President,
I don't know.
what would be your suggestions to bring about a peaceful solution of this dispute between Indonesia and Malaysia?
I am the man who always proposed to Tengku Abdul Rahman, please, Tengku, let us come back to the Manila Agreement. But Tengku refuses.
Well, that would call for a survey by the United Nations. Now that Indonesia has withdrawn from the United Nations, Indonesia, are you suggesting, would still abide by a survey carried out by a UN body?
The crux of the Manila Agreement is a democratic plebiscite. And I shall abide by the results of this democratic plebiscite. But if the plebiscite is not democratic, I shall refuse to accept the results.
President Sukarno, reportedly when you saw President Kennedy in 1961, you said to him, you are against communism, then give me your support. I am the best bulwark in Indonesia against communism. Do you remember if you said that to Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Is it still true?
I am against communism as if communism is making trouble against my state, against Indonesia. But I am not against communism as such.
Are you against communism in Indonesia?
No, if communism makes trouble against the Indonesian state, then I shall fight against that communism. I fought against Islam. My own religion is Islam, but if the Darul Islam makes trouble in Indonesia against the Indonesian state, I shall fight against the Darul Islam.
You feel, though, you have no trouble with communists in your own country?
At the present moment, not. When, in 48, they made a rebellion in Madiun, I was the man who fought against communism, against the PKI. But now the PKI are behaving well.
Mr. President, some analysts have the feeling that if the present trend, internal political trend, continues, and barring unforeseen circumstances, it's possible that the communists may eventually and gradually take over control of Indonesia. What's your estimate?
Nonsense. 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 I'm not afraid. I tolerate all ideologies. The nationalist ideologies, the religious ideology, the communist ideology. So far, they are not making trouble or damage to the Indonesian state.
Isn't it
that's
true,
why
sir?
That's why I make the NASACOM policy.
Isn't it true, sir, that the largest political party in Indonesia is the Communist Party, which is also the largest communist party outside the communist bloc?
Yeah? No? What does it mean? What does it mean?
Well, it would mean, wouldn't it, that if that party controls this country, it would eventually become communist.
I said I don't care about this so long as they are not damaging or making trouble against the state.
Mr. President.
Huh?
I understand. In other words, if it evolved slowly, without trouble, it would be all right.
Of course. Why not?
I'd like to bring the question back to relations between Indonesia and the United States. Right now, relations between the two countries have had their ups and downs over the years are now very much down. They've nosedived to perhaps an all-time low. Are you unhappy about the fact that relations between the two countries are now virtually non-existent?
Non-existent, this is not true.
Virtually non-existent. They're very remote.
United States of America or
relations between the two? How would you describe relations now? And how do you feel about it, sir? And what do you think?
Of course, I am myself unhappy if the relations between America and Indonesia are bad. I am unhappy. And I'm working for good relationship between America and Indonesia. But sometimes I told clearly that I don't like American policy in the East, especially. And it is not only Indonesia which does not like sometimes American policy. I can see even now in the Philippines is a rising opposition.
What would you suggest we do now to improve the relations with Indonesia, specifically?
Change your policy towards the East. And what we Indonesians want is just leave us alone. Leave us alone.
Mr. President, most Americans suspect that if the East were left alone, it would all be made over in the image of North Vietnam. Now, we may have differences in the
That is your fear.
Yes.
It's not our fear.
Why not?
Because we just want to be left alone, and you mix too much in our existence. Of course, then some strata of the population go, say, communist or go leftist.
Well, how would you feel, Mr. President, for example, if, to follow your suggestion, the United States were to withdraw from Southeast Asia and Asia, and the mainland were swept by a communist revolution, leaving Indonesia exposed under the present form of government here?
Why do you presuppose it? Why? If you leave South Vietnam,
what do you think will happen, Mr. President, if the United States left South Vietnam?
Then the South Vietnamese people will love America.
Will love America?
Yeah.
What kind of government do you think would be established there?
That I don't know. That is their business.
Wouldn't it be like the government of North Vietnam?
I don't know. But anyhow, they are now angry that America is mixing too much in their internal affairs.
Do you think China interferes in the internal affairs of other countries? Do you think China interferes in the internal affairs of other countries?
Mention an example. Where?
You do not think they are assisting North Vietnam in the war in South Vietnam?
China is also pro-freedom to be free, and China might see that in Vietnam, the Vietnamese people are not left alone, and I cannot blame China that then China also, acts against this.
You think that China interferes in other countries in the name of freedom, but we do not. Is that it? That when China interferes in the affairs of other countries, if they do, that it is for the purpose of promoting freedom in those countries, whereas...
My experience is, yes, China respects the freedom to be free. That's my experience. Definitely, I say yes. I have not experienced one occasion, one opportunity, one happening that China is not respecting our freedom to be free.
Well, Mr. President, in 1959, there was pretty much of a psychological Cold War between Peking and Jakarta, when the Indonesian government moved against the overseas Chinese here in the economic field.
Yes.
The relations between the two countries then were extremely strained.
Yes.
And there were pretty much of insults flying back and forth between Peking and Jakarta.
Yes. But then we solved this problem, and because China respects our freedom to be free, China accepts also the solution we give. Yeah, China respects the solution we give.
But Mr. President, to follow up on what you said about the United States and Communist China, is it possible, sir, that if the present trend of closeness continues between Jakarta and Peking, is it possible that by the very dynamics of such a situation, you could lead to a situation that would result in a break with relations with the United States? Or is that too far-fetched? I've heard some people say that.
That is America's business. But now the fact is this, that we, in our present position, for example, our pulling out from the United Nations, it is China who applauds. It is China who says, Indonesia, we are ready to support you in this.
Well, you don't find any of this...
How are your relations with Russia regarding the pullout of the United Nations, sir?
Oh?
How are your relations with Russia regarding your pulling out of the United Nations? What have
I told also clearly that this pulling out of Indonesia from the United Nations has nothing to do with relationships with other countries. It does not change our attitude to America. It does not change our attitude to Japan. It does not change our attitude to Russia. It does not change to our attitude to the Netherlands, etc., etc., etc.
Have you had any applause from the Russians when you withdrew?
No, only in the Russian press. But it is true that, for example, that Tito, that Nasser, that Madame Bandanareke wrote me a letter to reconsider my decision. And I replied, no, my decision is irrevocable.
Have any nations other than China supported your decision?
Supported? Yes, a lot.
What other governments besides China have applauded your decision?
I don't tell you.
These were private communications. have any done so publicly?
Yeah, a lot. Of
Publicly?
Publicly. Why should I reveal it? But last, for example, a day before yesterday in Cairo, a meeting took place. 12 countries, non-government, so 12 countries in Cairo. They took a resolution, 12 countries took a resolution welcoming and applauding our pulling out of the United Nations.
Mr. President, when you tell the American ambassador here to hell with your aid for what seem to you very good reasons, don't you understand that these words will be offensive to American taxpayers, many of whom are very poor themselves, whose taxes
That
paid?
I don't know, but I really, and again, I repeat, to go to hell with your aid if that aid is meant to keep us in strings.
Well,
again.
Have you experienced these strings, Mr. President, what you
Yes.
call strings?
Oh, yes.
From the United States?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Could you
For
give
example,
us...
with Mr. Black and the IMF, we had a very bad experience.
Have you ever experienced any strings in loans or credits or grants that have been extended by the Soviet Union or the Chinese?
No.
Never any strings?
No.
Mr. President, you sometimes describe yourself as a man in the middle when it comes to ideologies that are in competition in the world. Do you see any room for yourself in bringing about any kind of rapprochement between the United States and the Chinese?
Yes, I'm trying always very hard.
What efforts have you made? Have you actually made any specific
Yes,
efforts?
I said to Palar, try to convince America that it is unfair to keep China out of the United Nations.
Mr. President, speaking of Mr. Palar, who has served as the Indonesian ambassador to the United Nations, is it true that Mr. Palar will be the next Indonesian ambassador to the United States?
Mr. President, do you see any role?
Off the record?
It's off the record, but the cameras are going.
Mr. President, we have questions on a number of other subjects, and we'll resume in just a moment.
When you get in your car, what's the first thing you do? Put the key in the ignition, adjust the mirror, release the handbrake, and drive, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. If you didn't include buckling your seatbelt as part of your routine. Here's why. According to the National Safety Council, 4 out of 5 accidents happen within 25 miles of home. That means while you drive, even short distances from home, you're vulnerable to maiming accidents, even death. But when you buckle your seatbelt, you have an extra margin of safety between you, the wheel, the dash, and windshield of your car. See what we mean? So every time you get in your car, do this. Put the key in the ignition, adjust the mirror, release the handbrake, and make it a habit. Always buckle your seatbelt.
Do you expect to live to see the last colonial flag in the
That
world?
I don't know. I'm Mohammedan, and I'm not sure when I shall be called by God to come again to Him.
Mr. President, how are you feeling these days?
Oh, very strong. Very healthy, very strong.
How do you feel about the Beatles? I understand that there is a secret society of Indonesians who like to hear the Beatles, but they are not met with official
Yes,
approval.
I prohibit Beatles and Beatlism here. And I prohibit also twist here.
Do you consider it a form of colonialism?
Huh?
Do you consider Beatlism a form of colonialism?
No, just a mental disease.
What are the penalties, Mr. President?
I have instructed the police just only to cut the hair.
Has it happened?
Cut the hair.
Cut the hair. Oh, Beatle boys.
Freedom, we of course have had a different national experience, but among our freedoms, which we value, is freedom to oppose to the government, the freedom to stand up and criticize the president, to write an editorial critical of the president.
Yes.
Do you have such freedom in Indonesia?
Yes,
Are you criticized in the newspapers, Mr. President?
because I am, for example, perhaps doing well. Never I get great criticism against me. They have made me even lifelong president. They have made me the leader of the revolution. Because, yeah, perhaps or maybe I'm doing everything according to the wishes of the people.
All of our presidents from Washington on through Lincoln and Roosevelt have been strongly criticized throughout their terms of office. You don't feel that such criticism is necessary in a free country?
It is necessary, but people do not criticize me. Why? Here, ask this young girl. Ask her here, the other Mrs. Hamza. Why? Have I ever told you not to criticize me? But they never criticize me because I am doing nothing against the wish of the people. I am just a father of the people. They have made me lifelong president, Mr.
Niven, do you mean, Mr. President, that the Indonesian people are united on matters of policy so that they
Yes.
all agree with you?
Yes, they agree with me. For example, my pulling out of the United Nations has the complete support of the people. Up till now, no organization, no part of the people is against that.
Sir, as an observer out here, I've noted that the one unifying fact in Indonesia is you. But isn't it possible that there are some aspects of your policy that they would oppose, that some people would oppose?
Up to now, no. Of course, there are perhaps some little things we don't like, but in general, they agree with me. That's why they make me lifelong president.
We in the United States can listen to Radio Moscow. It is not jammed. We can buy it. We can read Pravda, Izvestia. Do you allow foreign opinion to come in here? Do you permit foreign newspapers and magazines to be circulated in your country?
Not if the foreign magazines of newspapers are making anti-Indonesia propaganda.
We think Pravda and Izvestia makes anti-American propaganda every day. Do you think we should keep it out?
I don't know. That is your business. That's your business.
Mr. President, how would you summarize your own feelings about the United States and Americans over the years in Indonesia and as relations exist today?
I repeat what I said in Hotel Indonesia. I like America. I like Americans, but I sometimes dislike American policy.
Thank you, President Sukarno, for being with us on Face the Nation. We'll have a concluding word in a moment.
June 1914. In Sarajevo, gunfire moves the world from crisis to Holocaust. August 1914. Bleeding Belgium fires world opinion against Germany. September 1914. 10 years of planning collapse at the Battle of the Marne. Thus begins the war of attrition in the trenches, the war to end all wars. Out of archives around the world, miles of rare film have been assembled to bring you the authentic and complete account of World War I. From the fraternity of high command to the brotherhood of unknown bravery. Geniuses, incompetence, and mud-drenched heroes emerge in living history in this unique television document of World War I. Watch for this amazing pictorial account, Sunday at 6:30, 5:30 Central Time, on most of these stations.
Today on Face the Nation, in an exclusive interview filmed 3 days ago in Jakarta, President Sukarno of Indonesia was questioned by CBS News Far East correspondent Peter Kalischer. Southeast Asian correspondent for CBS News Bernard Kalb. And CBS News correspondent Paul Niven. Next week, another prominent figure in the news will face the nation. Face the Nation was filmed in Jakarta, Indonesia, and edited.